Welcome back to the Soccer Specialist Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all your support. If you are enjoying the content, do me a favor and subscribe or follow depending on the where you are listening to this. Give it a rating or a review as well. You can do that if Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you're using. It really does help out a lot. And yes, we are back. Yes, it has been a while. It has been a crazy, crazy year, and I didn't follow my own advice that I give to a lot of you about if you don't have a lot of time doing little things consistently. And with the podcast, I really, instead of putting it off while I was focused on other things, because I'm working on all these new programs for all of you. I've got new ball control programs, new speed training programs out. I'm working on a couple of books. But even so, what I should have been doing is to make it valuable for you, even if it was only 5 or 6 minutes of really good tips. I should have consistently been putting out the podcast once a week to get that done. So, lesson learned. Look, see, all through life you're going to have these battles, and we're not all perfect. We don't always follow the advice that we are given, even when it's our own. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about building confidence by understanding how parents and coaches approach games and practices differently. Right, this is hugely important to every player's development. Without a focus on building confidence to go with the physical skills that you need, you're never going to become the player you want or deserve to be. Everything you do needs to revolve around skill acquisition, right? Building your skills, developing your skills, and effort. Okay. When um when you do your school assignments, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, and you keep up with the work, you're very confident when there's a test, right? Because basically now the night before is a review as opposed to a you know cramming for a test, right? Big difference in how you feel and the stress level and your mentality and all of that. When you just show up for class and you're not doing any of that, the night before a test is incredibly stressful, and the test is incredibly stressful, and you are not a confident student in that situation. But if you've been doing everything all along, you've been keeping up with the reading, keeping up with the assignments, doing the work, studying a little bit every night. When test rolls around, you're good to go, right? You are absolutely good to go. So the more skilled, okay, and we talked about this before, the more skilled you are, the more confident you are. But they build on each other. They go hand in hand. It's not necessarily one to get the other, because also when you build that confidence, you're then now going to go and work more on your skills because of that, right? And they're going to keep feeding into each other. It's like a feedback loop. They go hand in hand. They build on each other. Round and round they go. The more skilled you become, the more confident. The more confident you build, the more motivated you are to improve and work on your skills. And then this is how you become the best possible player you can be. Skill development, confidence, skill development, confidence, right? Now, one thing I want to talk about with this is a little different, is specifically about one issue that can hurt your skill and confidence development. You may not be able to change it, but if you understand it and you recognize it, you're aware of it, that helps you to deal with it and helps you to prevent it from holding you back, because you understand why it's happening. So you can now control how you react and realize that it shouldn't impact you in a negative fashion the way it might otherwise. Um, so that one obstacle negatively impacting game day performance. Well, here we go. So, okay, let's say you don't perform as well in games. Now, one reason, and this is what I want to talk about, it may be because in practice, things that are praised most often, all right, are hustle, heart, effort, right? You're trying to do whatever the new thing is. You're working hard at it until, even if the result and the performance isn't there, you're getting, from most coaches, okay, to be fair, I know there are exceptions, but you're usually getting positive reinforcement, right? Now in games, the mindset of the adults flips a little bit, right? The switch flips a little bit. Too many coaches and parents, they start yelling at mistakes now. They start putting more pressure on you as a player, right? They're only praising results instead of skill and decision making and effort and, the right idea. And of course, eventually the right idea has to become executed properly. But part of development at first, of course, is that you're doing more and more things right in terms of your decision making, even if the execution doesn't work out the way you want it to. Right. So now, as a player, now you're worried about performance. Or I should say now, right, you've got the players worried about performance instead of worried about their effort and decision making and trying to execute the skills that they've learned in training because now they don't want to mess up, right? They may have just learned something new and now they want to try it in a game, but now they're afraid to try it in the game because of the reaction that they're going to get from coaches and parents, which is very different than the reaction they get from the coach when they're trying it and learning it in practice. Right. Maybe you learn something new in practice and then you have the last 15 minutes or whatever are a scrimmage and you try it and it may not work out, but the coach is praising it because you're trying to bring something to a game that you had just learned in practice. But now when well, scrimmage, but you know what I mean within the team. But now when you try and actually go do it in real competition where you get a win or a loss against another opponent, you get a completely different reaction from the adult, right? So now as a young athlete, you get worried about that. And when you're worried, you are not a confident athlete. When you're not confident, you're not going to perform as well. You may not even try things that you should be trying because you don't want to mess them up. Right. So this is where you get players that they kind of hide on the pitch because if they don't have the ball, if they're not near the ball, they're not making mistakes. Right. And they're not making mistakes. They're not getting criticized or yelled at. They kick the ball away down to the other end instead of trying to settle it or make a decision or keep a possession. And look, a lot of parents will praise that, right? Because you got it out of trouble. You might have given it right back to the other team, but you got it out of trouble. And so they don't get involved because if you're not involved, you can't mess up. You can't have a bad performance. And but instead of having fun now and focusing on being fearless, right? Attempting these new things that you're learning. Now, as a player, you become fearful. This gets you nervous, it gets you anxious, timid, stressed. It makes it so much harder to execute skills and to perform well because you are so afraid of making a mistake. You're focused on everything bad instead of being focused on what you are actually doing, right? Huge, huge difference between the two things. So, young athletes need to be praised for their effort and skill, and that usually, or attempts at something, and that usually happens in practice, but not as much in a game. So, as a player, it's important for you to recognize that and remind yourself as well that simply because adults, such as parents or coaches, and sometimes even teammates, because they can get caught up in the emotion of the game, get caught up in the emotion of the competition. The fundamental truth of effort and skill development, right? Attempting new things because that's the only way you're going to get in them. That does not change. So as a player, you need to do this. You need to understand this with your own performance, be honest about mistakes, but also find something good to praise in your performance as well. And recognize the fact that in the moment, whether it's coaches in the game, parents in the game, parents on the car ride home, that they're in an emotional state brought about by competition. And some go way crazy, I get it, but we all are susceptible to that a little bit, which is why I even mentioned teammates. And if you as a player can recognize that, I'm not saying it's fun then when you get criticized by a coach when you shouldn't or by a parent when you shouldn't, but it's easier. And the more you play and the older you get, it becomes easier as if you have this mindset of understanding, hey, you know what? It's not the end of the world. I understand why my coach, I understand why my mom or why my dad is acting that way in the moment. I get it. I don't like it, but I understand it. And I can't allow them not being able to control themselves emotionally at a game. I can't allow that to stop me from becoming a better player and stop me from having fun and stop me from the joy of the game and learning new things and developing as a player and trying things I've never tried before. And so if you can, and it's not easy, but if you can recognize that from coaches and parents, it will make it easier on you as a player. And I think that's really important for you to understand as far as your development goes. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I really hope this helped you out a little bit. I appreciate you listening. Again, like I said, if you can, wherever you are, it might be a subscribe button. I think on Spotify it's a follow button. Smash one of those if you haven't already. I'm going to start doing these on a regular basis again. Also, give me a rating if you don't mind, and you've been listening to some, a rating or even a review. It helps out a lot with the program as well. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much. Hope it helped. Go have the day you deserve, and I will talk to you later.